My name is Tyler DePrano, and I am doing my video on Lyme disease. Lyme disease is a bacterial infection. It's mainly transmitted by Ixodes ticks. These are also known as deer ticks or black-legged ticks. They're typically found in wooded and grassy areas. It's estimated that there are about 40,000 cases each year. That's at least what have been reported. But the CDC estimated that the number of true cases of Lyme disease is much, much higher, with around 480,000 cases in a single year. Lyme disease is transmitted by ticks to human hosts. Infections are common in dogs as well. Ticks are able to survive through animal vectors, and these animal vectors are correlated to the exposure with humans and their infection rates. So Lyme disease is, again, a bacterial infection. It's caused by the bacterium Borrelia burgdorferi. Borrelia burgdorferi is a gram-negative diderm spirochete. To be a diderm, it means it's a double membrane bacteria. So it's a double membrane gram-negative. Two other bacterium, Borrelia afzelii and Borrelia guarenii, also cause Lyme disease. For the purposes of this presentation, however, we're just going to be focusing on the Burgdorferi species, as is the predominant Lyme disease causing bacterium in North America. Lyme disease is a zoonosis disease, zoonosis. It's transmitted to humans from basically by ticks. So the ticks are feeding on small mammals and birds. Again, these are Ixodes ticks. So there's ticks such as Ixodes scapularis that it is transmitted through, and depending on where you are in the world, for example, scapularis is common in the East Coast, while other Ixodes species are more common on the West Coast. Deer are the preferred hosts of the adult stage of these ticks, and the tick populations are lower in the absence of deer. Ticks don't generally, even though this is true, ticks don't get Lyme disease spirochetes from the deer. Rather, deer ticks get the Borrelia burgdorferi pathogens from the small mammals and birds that we were talking about earlier. Lyme disease was first diagnosed in 1975. It was originally mistaken for other diseases, and the bacterium, the spirochetes, were first described in 1981 by Willy Burgdorfer. So again, this is a zoonosis, and it's basically caused by the Borrelia burgdorferi coming in. So the Borrelia outer surface protein, which is OSPA, it binds to a tick receptor, and then when the tick feeds, Borrelia downregulates the OSPA and upregulates OSPC. Now, once these migrate from the midgut to the salivary glands, OSPC binds to a tick salivary protein, and then within about 36 to 48 hours, this protein makes its way along with the Borrelia spirochete into infection of a mammalian host. But this is only needed if the mammalian host has a bacterial expression of OSPC. The tick bites are usually unnoticed because of how small the ticks are in their nymphal stage. As well as their larval stage. They are extremely, extremely small, as you can see in the picture. There is a rash on the skin that is first shown. We'll go and talk about that later, but that is going to be the first sign that there is any infection. In Europe, the primary tick type is Ixodes ricinus, and in China, Ixodes persulacatus are the two main vectors in those areas. So again, this is a very widespread disease that occurs all over the world. So actual infectious transmission appears to be rare, mainly because that live spirochetes are hard to find in most body fluids, and it's just it's very hard to see what exactly these ticks are doing. You know, it's very hard to culture them and isolate them. Early symptoms, which are occurring within 3 to 30 days after the initial tick bite, include fever, chills, headache, fatigue, muscle, joint aches, and swollen lymph nodes. The rash that we are talking about that occurs, it is called an erythema migrans rash, an EM rash. It occurs in 70 to 80% of infected persons, and it usually takes about 7 days to occur. It's not really itchy or painful, but it is warm. Later signs and symptoms occur days to months after the initial tick bite. These include severe headaches, neck stiffness, additional EM rashes. So the rashes that first occurred at the site of the tick bite early on, these start occurring all over the body, or they can. Patients can have arthritis with severe joint pain and swelling, facial palsy, which is loss of muscle tone or ability to use their muscles on part of their face. They'll have pain in tendons, muscles, bones, heart palpitations, dizziness. It's nerve pain. It's problems with their short-term memory. It's a pretty nasty bug. Local infection can occur when it hasn't spread to the body. So the EM rash really only occurs before the infection spreads through the body, and it's not really known why it only occurs in 70 to 80% of people, the EM rash, but it's easy for this disease to be misdiagnosed because it shares so many other symptoms with so many different diseases, especially that of flu or any respiratory infections. So vaccines for Lyme disease include a canceled disease. There's a canceled vaccine, Lymerix. This was originally approved in 1998. It was developed by a company and went through clinical trials that were included 10,000 people. It worked in 76% of adults and 100% of children, and only had mild or transient adverse effects. But unfortunately, it was high cost, so it wasn't prescribed very often, and then it wasn't covered by insurance companies at the time. Hundreds of vaccine recipients started saying that they had autoimmune side effects, so their autoimmune systems, their immune systems weren't functioning correctly. They were claiming that, and a number of lawsuits were filed against the company. The FDA and CDC investigated this and didn't find any link between these autoimmune complaints and the vaccine itself. But sales still plummeted, and the company took away the vaccine off the market. If you were vaccinated with this before the vaccine was taken off the market in 2002, this vaccine didn't last very long, so it's likely that you're still not protected. There are 3 dog vaccines that dogs can be vaccinated with against Lyme disease so that they don't carry it. These are described in the PowerPoint here: Lymevax, Galaxy Lyme, and Canine Recombinant Lyme. Treatment for Lyme disease includes antibiotic treatment. You can give oral doxycycline initially, but if the EM rash occurs, you can still use oral doxycycline. But other antibiotics also include amoxicillin, cefuroxime, azithromycin. You can also use some intravenous administration of antibiotics such as ceftriaxone, cefotaxime, or doxycycline. So the Treatments will differ for anyone with an early or late infection, so intravenous would be late and oral would be early. So to avoid getting infected with Lyme disease, avoid wooded areas with tall grass, walk in the center of trails, use tick repellents with DEET or permethrin. So products that have permethrin on clothing will help repel the ticks. If you use the tick pesticide with DEET on your dogs, that can also help. And additionally, just make sure that you don't provide an environment for ticks. You can also use acaricides, which are tick pesticides, and this can reduce the number of ticks in the treated areas of your yard.